Welcome back, viewers, to the latest Researchers News. Currently, we have three major developments about the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia. Firstly, about a new armed movement has emerged in the Afar region. We explain what this means for the opposition landscape. Secondly, about fresh video from Tigray Defense Forces sources shows dozens of soldiers advancing toward the front line. The Reakobo Alamata front remains extremely tense. More Tigray Defense Forces soldiers are now moving toward the Amhara Afar border areas. We explain what this movement means and where it fits in the broader military picture. In last, about unverified but alarming reports of trench digging on the outskirts of Addis Ababa. We share what we know, what we do not know, and how you can help verify it. Let us begin with the development that a new armed force has publicly revealed itself in the Afar region of Ethiopia. It is called the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front. In the Afar language, it is referred to as Ugugumo, and it represents something that has been building in the Afar region for years, the organized political and military expression of Afar communities who have run out of patience with the Ethiopian federal government. The leader of the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front is Colonel Haji Ibrahim Osman Aliyu. In the video we have received, which you can see on your screen, Colonel Haji Ibrahim Osman Aliyu is seen addressing and briefing newly recruited forces who have just completed their required military and tactical training. These are not untrained volunteers being handed weapons for the first time. These are fighters who have gone through a structured training program and graduated into the movement. There is one biographical detail about Colonel Haji Ibrahim Osman Aliyu that is particularly striking. He is the cousin of Aisha Mohammed, who currently serves as Ethiopia's Minister of Defense. The very minister responsible for the Ethiopian National Defense Force, the military that the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front is now organizing against, is a family relative of that movement's commander. The Afar people who inhabit the vast Hash Afar region in northeastern Ethiopia have historically been marginalized in Ethiopian political life. The region is resource-rich in some areas, but has seen little development investment. The Afar people have faced land pressures, conflict with neighboring communities, inadequate infrastructure, and under the Prosperity Party government, a sense that their political concerns and cultural identity are not being taken seriously by Addis Ababa. Years of frustration, insecurity, and the absence of meaningful opportunities have pushed growing numbers of Afar youth toward the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front. They are not joining because they are being forced to their joining, because they see organized resistance as the only meaningful way to reclaim political agency in a system that has excluded them. Right now, the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front is a new and relatively small force. It has not yet coordinated operationally with the Tigray Defense Forces, the Oromo Liberation Army, or the Amhara Fano National Movement. There is no confirmed military alliance between these groups at this point, but the strategic logic of such a coordination is powerful. If the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front eventually joins a broader alliance of armed resistance alongside the Tigray Defense Forces from the north, the Amhara Fano National Movement from the west, and the Oromo Liberation Army from the south, the Ethiopian federal government would be facing organized armed opposition from every major regional direction simultaneously. North, Tigray Defense Forces, backed by Eritrea through the Semido Alliance. West, Amhara Fano National Movement, conducting its campaign for unity. South and Center, Oromo Liberation Army operating in Oromia. East, Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front, now publicly revealed and trained. That is not a civil war. That is a national armed uprising across multiple peoples and regions. The Ethiopian federal government has not faced this scale of combined opposition before. The fresh video you are watching on your screen, received from Tigray Defense Forces sources, shows something that is significant in both its content and its timing. Dozens of Tigray Defense Forces soldiers armed, organized, and moving together, advancing toward the front line, not retreating, not repositioning defensively, moving forward in the direction of the fight. Let us explain what this movement means in the context of everything we have been tracking on the Raya Kobo Alamata front. In previous videos, we reported in detail on the military situation developing in North Wulo Zone's Raya corridor, the area that runs along the A2 highway between the Tigray region and the Amhara region. We reported that both the Ethiopian National Defense Force and the Tigray Defense Forces were reinforcing this corridor with heavy weapons and additional personnel simultaneously. We reported that fortified positions had been established on both sides. We reported that residents in the area were afraid, and that analysts described the situation as the most dangerous concentration point in the current conflict. That situation has not changed. It has intensified. Reports from credible ground sources confirm that the Raya Kobo Alamata front remains extremely tense. Forces from both sides are deployed with heavy weapons in close proximity to each other. Artillery has been positioned. Air defense systems are in place. The corridor is what military analysts call pre-kinetic, meaning the forces and weapons are in place for major fighting to begin, and the only thing separating the situation from an eruption is the order to fire. Against this background, the fresh footage of Tigray Defense Forces soldiers advancing toward the front line is a direct and concrete update on where the Tigray Defense Forces is in terms of its physical deployment. What does advancing toward the front line actually mean in military terms? It means these soldiers are being moved from rear positions where they were training, resting, or waiting into the forward deployment zone, into the areas where they would be needed if the Raya Kobo Alamata front becomes an active battle. This is not a patrol, not a routine movement. Dozens of organized armed soldiers moving as a unit toward the front line reflects a decision by Tigray Defense Forces Command to bring more combat-ready personnel into the forward area. And importantly, the updates we have received indicate that additional Tigray Defense Forces soldiers are now advancing not only toward Raya Kobo Alamata, but toward the broader Amhara Afar border areas. This aligns with the known deployment of Tigray Defense Forces Armies 43 and 44 into the Afar adjacent zones, a deployment we reported earlier, which gave Tigray Defense Forces a presence in the Afar region that they did not have previously. Why does the Afar connection matter for Tigray Defense Forces deployment? Because if the Afar National Unity Revolutionary Front and the Tigray Defense Forces find themselves operating in overlapping geographic zones, even without formal coordination, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, operational challenges in the Afar Tigray border area become significantly more complex. Two independent armed forces operating in the same zone against the same opponent create compounding problems for an army that cannot be everywhere at once. The Tigray Defense Forces advance we see in this footage is a visible confirmation that the Raya Kobo Alamata front is not cooling down. It is heating up. Finally, a report that we share with you with a clear warning. it has not been independently verified. Reports have emerged claiming that the Ethiopian federal government has begun digging defensive trenches on the outskirts of Addis Ababa, the country's capital. The reports describe anxious official inspections of these positions and suggest that the activity reflects genuine fear within the federal government about the possibility of armed forces specifically advancing Amhara National Movement and Oromo Liberation Army units eventually reaching the capital. We are working actively to verify this report. It is a serious claim. The construction of defensive trenches around a capital city is not a routine military exercise. It is something governments do when they believe their seat of government is under genuine threat. We have been transparent throughout this coverage about what we can confirm and what we cannot. We will not present this as confirmed when it is not. What we can say is this: the claim is not implausible given everything else we are tracking. The Amhara National Movement's campaign for unity has produced consistent results across multiple fronts. The Oromo Liberation Army has publicly stated its intention to increase operations in central Oromia areas around Addis Ababa, specifically to create psychological pressure on the federal government. Tigray Defense Forces are advancing toward the Amhara Afar border. A new Afar armed front has just publicly emerged. In that context, the possibility that federal government officials are concerned about the security of the capital and are taking precautionary defensive measures is not implausible. It is, in fact, the rational response of a government that is aware of how many fronts it is managing simultaneously. But we will not confirm what we have not confirmed. We ask you, our viewers, if you have any information about what is happening on the outskirts of Addis Ababa, please share it in the comments. Community intelligence matters in a conflict zone where formal reporting is controlled and restricted. We will follow up on any leads that help us verify or refute this report. Like, share and subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an update.